My grandma used to always accuse me of being anemic. She's like, "You're pale. You must be anemic." I'm like, "No, I'm not, Grandma. I'm
God, that's
fine."
probably in contrast, my grandpa's like, "Are you sure you're Mexican? Because you're really pale."
Welcome to Millennial, the home of pretend adulting and real talk. I'm Andrew.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Pamela.
And this week in the Dumpster Fire Corner, of course, we have to talk about the Epstein file dump that happened on Friday. Like 3.5 million records were dropped. Just want to call out here that the documents were released more than 40 days after the December 19th legal deadline for the Justice Department to release all files in line with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. This wasn't all the files. It's believed that there are still about 2.5 million files that have not been released yet that are still under review at the Justice Department. But a couple of kind of harrowing things that came out of this. First of all, the DOJ failed to redact hundreds of identifying victim details, including names and nude photographs even. This was rather shocking, I think, to see that it really felt like more care was being put into who was getting put on blast rather than like which victims' identities were being protected, which, by the way, that was part of the Transparency Act as well, that they should have been redacting these details. Not sure if y'all heard any murmurings around this in the last couple of days, but there's some pretty sick stuff in here that's like very traumatic.
At the fact that like at the very least they couldn't do their due diligence about like hiding minors and stuff too is ridiculous. Like everybody should have been protected, but especially when you're talking about like so much of this case is centered around minors.
If they've been taking so much time to do this, then why aren't they getting this right from the outset? If they need all this extra time to redact what needs to be redacted, why are they still screwing up?
And of course, many powerful people have been named. I mean, I don't think there's anyone that we're hearing about that's a great shock at this point, but that also includes the President of the United States. And I just wanted to share this statement the DOJ made on Friday, specifically with regards to the president. They said some of the documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election. To be clear, the claims are unfounded and false, and if they have a shred of credibility, they certainly would have been weaponized against President Trump already.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. Okay, Jan.
That's so embarrassing for them.
I know.
It's going to be so embarrassing for them in the future.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
Somebody actually is being held accountable?
Yes. So the first criminal investigation is happening across the pond over in the UK. So this has been opened into Peter Mendelsohn, who is a former UK ambassador to the United States, also a member of the Labour Party. He allegedly received $75,000 from Epstein and provided Epstein with secret government intel.
Oh, okay.
In exchange. Yeah.
Nobody in America is being held accountable for this, just somebody overseas.
No, not yet. But, at least justice is starting somewhere.
The Clintons are going to be held accountable. They have agreed to testify in the House about Epstein. They are also asking for cameras to be in the room.
As they should.
Yes. Yeah, because but this is just going to add to the theatrics. So it's like, pluses and minuses here. I don't think, and I think we're on agreement, if they have to testify, then everybody should have to testify.
Yeah.
We know why the Republicans are picking on the Clintons.
And you know what, though? Maybe that sets a precedent. That's probably, I mean, like the camera is like, it's good because on one hand, their words don't necessarily, like they will get minced anyway, right? The statements will get minced.
Yeah.
But at least they can point to the raw footage and be like, well, actually, this is the context. And if that sets a precedent for like, other people that also have to testify, all the better for it.
Well, I think, there's just so much noise that consistently is coming out of this administration, and I think it is intentional. And that kind of takes us into another focus I want us to think about for a moment is this whole nationalizing elections bullshit that Trump has been on for the last few days. So he made some comments following the FBI raid of the Fulton County Elections Office in Georgia, specifically to obtain ballots from 2020. to try and prove his 2020 election conspiracy theory, even though this has already been investigated ad nauseum and nothing was ever found. But he's using his own FBI to conduct this investigation, which feels like a huge conflict of interest. Additionally, he's tapping Tulsi Gabbard to run her own investigation into the 2020 election, which is weird because that's not even her job. She's the director of national intelligence. And I think while we're talking about Tulsi Gabbard, we also just have to note that there is a recent whistleblower complaint that came to light against her from 2021, alleging that a highly classified report was deliberately limited in distribution for political reasons. So we've heard the rumors about Tulsi Gabbard being a Russian asset in the past, and this seems to suggest that there are still some concerns there that should make any person a little wary of this particular human running an investigation into the 2020 election.
And apparently this was so classified that the White House didn't even know how to present it to Congress or something like that because it was so serious. Like, that's intriguing and worrying.
Mm-hmm. So Trump is encouraging Republicans to, quote, take over in at least 15 states. That essentially refers to taking over the state's board of elections. And all of this, I think, is an attempt to destabilize confidence in the 2026 midterm elections we have coming up because they know they're going to lose.
Yeah. There was that big upset in Texas this week.
Right. They flipped that special election state Senate seat, which special elections can be kind of funky. However, this was a Trump plus like 15 district. So it is unprecedented that Dems were able to flip this seat. And it is a sign that we're heading towards kind of an onslaught, for Republicans in the midterms, which is not unprecedented. This tends to be what happens. Whatever party is in charge tends to lose midterms. Like, there's nothing unusual about that pattern, but I think that the administration is looking at all of the terrible publicity they're getting around ICE, all of the terrible publicity they're getting around Epstein, and they're panicking because they see their internal polling, and they also see members of Congress who are getting they're kind of quaking in their boots a little bit, and they're not so quick to get in line behind him. So we'll just have to keep an eye on this. But I think in the meantime, my recommendation for this week is going to be check your voter registration status, because we've seen before that in the states that are going to try and muck around with voting, one of the early tactics they employ is to purge their voter rolls. So definitely check your registration status to make sure that your registration is still current.
Even if the Texas flip was a very unique situation, it still gives us a much needed sign of hope and a good teaser. Let's hope for the 2026 midterms. Well, that's what's happening in the news. A couple of the big things happening in the news. Before we discuss this being the year millennials officially got old, and then later we're going to talk about something you didn't realize was optional in life until you saw someone simply not doing it. This show is brought to you by listeners like you, and by supporting us over at patreon.com/millennial, you can get instant access to lots of perks, including After Dark. This week, I want to run a situation by y'all. I've been deciding whether or not I should do something concerning somebody in my neighborhood, but I get the feeling that it's like super creepy if I approach them about this. So I want to get a temp check from y'all.
Ooh, interesting.
I love it. Yeah, support us over at Patreon, and Andrew will take your personal advice for how to handle his neighborhood festivities.
Yeah. Other benefits on our Patreon include the monthly Bay Hangout. We just had one yesterday, actually. This is a monthly Zoom hangout we do with our Bay and higher patrons. It was a lot of fun.
If you're looking for other ways to support the show, you can always wear your love by visiting shop.millennialshow.com to pick up official show gear. We'd also appreciate it if you told a fellow millennial about the show, and make sure you're following us in your favorite podcast app.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
And we're back, and we're going to talk about how I guess 2025 was officially the year that millennials got old, or at least occurring to this one editorial written in the New York Times, which made me laugh out loud at multiple points because it is so dramatic in certain ways. But I think it does capture a few areas where at least I've been feeling that, like, phase of life transitioning as I've gotten into my mid-30s. I think before I turned 35, I didn't think about this as much, but now as I'm in that mid-30s phase, I'm definitely starting to feel it more. But just to kind of prime the conversation, this op-ed observes the youngest of our cohort are about to turn 30, and the oldest are pushing 45, meaning that we're all now inhabitants of the life phase that psychologist Claire Mehta has called established adulthood, a demanding period that can involve juggling careers while caring for kids and aging parents. So do any of us feel like a recent shift in the last, 3 to 5 years of life phase that we're in?
So we're all in our mid-30s, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking and making sure the listeners know. I feel like, Laura, something you said on the show probably a couple years ago was like, now that I'm in my 30s, I feel like things are together. I've been trying to keep that in mind. I actually do kind of feel that way. There's still drama, there's still stress, but I do sense a shift. But how about for you? Like, you felt like things were coming together, settling in, I think. Do you still feel that way?
Totally. Yeah. I feel like I have my life way more together than I did 5, even like 10 years ago. But
Yeah.
I also feel with the march of time come those inevitable responsibilities that start cropping up as you age, just around like your own health and wellness, but also around like the natural aging that like your parents are going through, or having to make considerations about a dog that's getting older, like things that I know all three of us have had to have in mind. So it's like I feel simultaneously more capable of handling things than I was a decade ago. But at the same time, sometimes it can feel like a lot of pressure when you have those new life phases come upon you. So I get like I'm feeling okay about it, but I also observe that it's there, that it's very real, that there are realities that come with being closer to 40 than you are to 20.
For me, the health and wellness stuff is really what sticks out. And also like the mortality and just like general passage of time, mostly because like I have young parents, or I should say my parents had me younger, and my grandparents had my parents even younger than they had us. But I'm starting to see like it's normal at this point for like some of our friends to lose their parents. And anytime I see that, it's just like that really puts the age into perspective, because you see it happening more and more, or at least I do. But I also recognize that I grew up with I just like where I grew up, the parents tended to be older. Like a lot of them were already retired, or like in their 50s, well into their 50s when we graduated from high school. So it makes sense that they would be like at a different stage. My mom is not even old enough really to retire yet, technically by like, government standards. But yeah, just seeing like people in our peer group like lose parents just for like natural causes, not even like from, cancer or anything like that, is that is just crazy that we're at that point where people are starting to lose their parents young.
I think we've all experienced seeing people who are our age die very unexpectedly, or go through cancer or something like that and pass away too soon. Those really hit you hard as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely have more like, I've always been like a little bit of a hypochondriac, but I have more like medical anxiety than I used to, just in terms of, thinking like, oh, like, should I be doing this? Should I be checking that? I think that probably falls into like, Andrew, you just did your massive blood work done. We just did our like that segment last week about like checking in on like how your body's aging and doing. So
what does getting old mean to each of us? So thinking about some of these phases that we were just talking about, I'm wondering if we can drill in and get a little more specific about what it means to, quote, get old. I think sometimes if you look to the internet for examples of what it means to get old, you're going to see a lot of takes from like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, like referring more to the millennial cringe moments as like age identifiers. But is there anything else? It can be stuff that comes from like fashion, different kinds of trends, language that we use.
I think being a little less apologetic about things and being able to say no to things more often, having no regrets about maybe old people things like going to bed early. But I've always been somebody who goes to bed earlier.
Yeah. Oh, Andrew, you've always been old in that way.
Grandpa Sims.
I think just knowing what we want is what I see as aging or entering this era of our lives. Knowing exactly what we want, because we even go through our 20s, not really, a lot of people go through their 20s not knowing where they're going to end up in life. But then once you get to our stage, what most millennials, I hope, are going through now is, okay, I want X, Y, and Z to lead a fulfilling life.
But now I'm wondering, and this is just me trying to play therapist and like dig in with y'all, because I had so many questions come up as I was reading this article related to sort of how society views aging, but then how we personally view aging. So I'm wondering how we internalize it versus how society treats it. My example is that I feel like I'm aging insofar as some of the more adult responsibilities come into life. Like Yuki in our Discord is calling out a great example, having to understand Social Security and retirement/income caps and the new tax laws for my mom felt like a big getting older thing. Stuff like that. It's
Helping
just
your
like
parents out more often.
yeah, exactly. But also just like setting yourself up. Like
Mhm.
honestly, a decade ago, I wasn't thinking about my own retirement. I wasn't thinking about talking to a financial advisor to make sure that I was making smart decisions with my money, you know? And these are
Yeah.
things that become more common, I feel like, when you're getting into your mid to late 30s.
Yeah.
But I did have a 20-something call me Ms. T the other day, and I wasn't sure how I felt about that. And it was like my legal name she used too, which is not T. But I was a little shocked by it because I was like, I don't feel like, I feel like that lady is like my grandmother, you know? Like, why are you calling me that? But
Yeah.
she was really young. So probably to her, it seemed like I should be a Ms.
I try to continue feeling young by just like keeping in mind the phrase use it or lose it. Y'all know I like to stay as active as possible. So
Yeah.
I try to keep moving and try to challenge myself. And I think those challenges, you might have a idea in mind and you're like, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. And then you give it a shot and maybe it's scary, but you do. And it's pleasantly surprising to see that you were able to crush it. And I think it makes you feel young. I'm talking abstractly here so people can kind of try to apply this to anything they maybe have been thinking about themselves.
Well, it can have to do with like goals and projects, whether it's stuff to do with your career or just passions or like physical fitness. Like that, I think, can pretty much apply to anything.
I think it's also helpful too when I meet people who aren't turned off by befriending a 36-year-old who are a lot younger than me. I look at, let's say, a 27-year-old or a 28-year-old and they're up for socializing with me. And I'm like, would I have felt the same way when I was 27 or 28 years old?
I think you would have, because if you, just look at like our early 20s and late teens, we were definitely like interacting with people way older than us just
That's
based
because I had no other
fandom.
choice. Yeah, well, I didn't think it was possible for me to make other friends, so I was stuck with.
But not everybody was that old. That was a choice that you made.
But I can tell you there were times when I was in my 20s and I was looking at the dating apps and I'm seeing 35 plus and I was thinking to myself, whoa, that is old. And now the tables have turned.
Listen,
no, I feel that.
Yeah,
that's different.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
and to
true.
be fair, when you were in your early 20s, that was probably not a bad take for you to have. Again, not saying that age gap relationships never work, but I think it's completely fair for someone to take that into consideration for who they want to date.
For sure.
Whereas like now, vice versa, if I were to get on a dating app and I was being served anyone under the age of 30, I think I would be so freaked out. Because it
Would
like,
you?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, even
No,
like
I get it.
I would be friends with someone who's a little younger than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that goes to show like as you get older, age gaps matter less when it comes to being able to relate to other people. But I still think, I don't know, when someone's frontal lobe isn't fully developed, I don't know.
Right.
I
Well,
wanna
there's a
be-
difference between there's also a difference between just like socializing casually with somebody and then like wanting to be like romantically involved or like start a life with somebody. It's funny that you mentioned that too, because I was having lunch with a friend last week, and we're both like going to separate weddings very soon, like back to back, or like right around the same time as each other. And she was basically saying, "Oh, I'm excited to go to this wedding because like the bride and groom are a little bit older, so I think that like I will be able to socialize with people that are a little bit more around like my age range, and I just like I don't really like I'm at an age where I don't want to associate with people that are like in their early to mid 20s." Or like it basically like it wasn't that she wouldn't want to. I just think that she felt like it was maybe like harder to connect with people at that age, which I totally get because maybe you feel like you don't have enough as much in common with people at that age. I sometimes feel like just by proxy of like being one of 6 kids and like that age gap is really large, that I'm like a little bit like more predisposed to being able to talk to people that are a little bit younger, because it's like I just think of it like, oh well, like my brother's around that age, like the youngest one, or even like just existing online or in the industry that I'm in. It's like pop culture sometimes in a lot of ways can feel like it's for the youth, even though like anybody can enjoy it. And so it's like, probably like if I'm at a wedding with a 22-year-old who's like really into Euphoria, I could talk to them about Euphoria. You know what I mean? It's not like, but somebody else my age might not be interested in that. So it's like, I don't know. It's like, it's a weird like juxtaposition for me. It doesn't really bother me. Especially because I'm not like looking to like forge a lasting connection. Usually it's just like, oh, we can have a nice time because we're sat next to each other. It's fine.
I think most of the time if you find yourself seated next to someone for like a time boxed period, I think most of the time you can find some common ground to discuss with them for sure.
Especially if alcohol's involved.
Right. Yeah, that
like a wedding.
Having a social lubricant makes it so much easier. But this editorial also calls out that like they perceive the most stark demarcation that we have, sort of noting millennials aging, is the internet, specifically with regard to how the internet was kind of ours for a period of time. Like we were the ones who were driving the trends online. We were the ones who really knew how to use these tools.
Literally making the websites.
Yeah. And we're not the only ones doing that anymore. As a matter of fact, we're not the ones driving all of the trends anymore. So I thought we could talk about our online presences and how they've shifted as we've gotten older, because quite honestly, I used to be chronically online. I would post all the time. I was very active on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all these places. And I really feel like my online presence did not bounce back from COVID, honestly. Like I just got so much less invested in it during that time. And I haven't really gone back to it in any kind of meaningful, substantial way.
But you're still online a lot, right?
Yeah, but like I lurk.
You're not posting.
No. That kind of still, I feel like that still counts though, because you're aware.
It does.
Yeah.
I was just going to say like I'm chronically online, but I don't, okay. Well, but do you ever like go down the rabbit hole if you don't understand something?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay. But you're not compelled to do it.
No, like
as much as you would have been in your like early 20s or something.
Right. Like I earlier, in the last 2 months, we talked about the whole 6-7 trend and like other linguistic it like ends with the young people. And that kind of stuff, I don't really care. I'm like, okay, like it's their version of the random like internet brain rot we were all engaging in back in the day.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like whatever, you do you.
I definitely post less, but I still enjoy posting. I'll post on threads from time to time. I've definitely come to like posting to the Instagram story. I just think at this point, we've been doing this for 20 years now. So in some ways, I'm just ready to not have my opinions always be heard and criticized. I still really enjoy it, but I also don't feel the need to as much as I once did, especially when it comes to social media.
Yeah, for me, it's like with like regards to posting, I think I've pulled away from posting about the mundane as much, and I think that is why the socials have kind of suffered, because it's like I think it's like if I'm not doing anything interesting, well, suffered like in the sense that my socials are pretty much dormant unless I feel like I have something interesting to share. But I think that's just like Laura, it's kind of like a byproduct of the pandemic. It's like, no, we weren't really doing anything. I wasn't really doing anything. You shouldn't have been doing anything if you were being safe about it, at least at the beginning.
Yeah.
And so then it was just really easy to like not get back into it. And then after that, it was like, we also, I think we talked about this when we were covering the Black Lives Matter movement. I just kind of felt like, if I didn't have anything to say about that and I was saving all of that for, like this platform, which is much wider reaching than, my little Twitter account or my Instagram, then it's like, why am I going to bother posting? There's like, so I should save that space for people that are doing good work,
Yeah, there's also been a shift towards more private conversations. We saw this a few years ago.
Yeah.
This is one reason Snapchat has continued to be really popular, because you're sending messages just to a friend instead of posting to these public feeds. And I think we've all felt that with group chats. It's just everybody's just moved to a more private
Discord
method of communication.
Too is like great for like micro communities and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like completely really off the grid of social media. I mean, like your stuff essentially exists in chat rooms, but it's not really going anywhere outside of whoever's in that Discord. And so I think that like day to day, I probably do more posting on places like that than I do public places,
That's an interesting point. Like, you'll never find Discord messages on Google search results or surfacing in a social media feed. If you're there, you'll see it, maybe, and if not, you're never going to see it.
Yeah, but it's like, and I think in some ways it's more fun because like as the algorithm, especially on like places like X, for example, pushes your post down more, it's nice to know that like if you're posting something or if you're commenting on something, people are going to respond back to you, and oftentimes in real time, which is a little bit nicer than just waiting for somebody to interact with your post. So.
And in those closed communities, there's less trolling going on.
Yeah, because everybody's kind of there for the same reason, and so it's like, okay, like I don't have to worry about Joe Schmo being like, I hate that thing. And it's like, cool, nobody asked you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't come into your house and tell you I hate that thing you have up on your wall.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I also think that, one of the markers of age for us, but also something that I think has some overlap with the social media conversation is around those like life milestones that I think this gets often portrayed as millennial cringe, where millennials had a habit for a while of posting the Facebook status update with a picture saying, I did a thing, and it's like the keys to their new home, or like, we did a thing, and the engagement ring. And I really think that because these milestones tended to come later for our age group than they did for prior generations, people were really wanting to celebrate them because they're supposed to be the markers of having reached, middle class success. And it's like, now we're learning it's not really the case.
Sometimes that I think makes me feel like not as old. It's less like the owning a house, because I think it's like very common these days for people to rent for their whole lives, especially if they live in like a bigger city. But like just like the, like not being married, not having kids kind of thing, they're traditional mile markers of life. And so like if you don't have those, I think it's very easy. Kind of like how like in media we tend to infantilize women that are not married.
Yeah.
You know, I just kind of feel like it's easy to not infantilize yourself, but to feel like you're not as old as you feel like you are because you're not actively pursuing those life goals, or maybe it just hasn't happened for you yet, even if you are pursuing them, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And actually, I think that's a really good point to kind of round us out here before we move to the next part of this discussion is exactly what you brought up, Pam. I feel like more and more I see people in our age group really starting to question whether these traditional milestones really mean anything about your success. I think the way that society has conditioned us to, and whether there are other ways to obtain that feeling and also still feel young. I still feel young. Like,
So do I.
Yeah.
I still feel young, but I think it just it catches me off guard when people younger than me act like I'm old.
Mhm.
You know?
When you say feel young, do you mean energy-wise, mentality? Like how do
I
you
think
feel young?
I think mentality. Like I'm trying to stay curious. I try not to insulate myself in a bubble where I only listen to the same music or I only read the same books or I only participate in the same hobbies over and over for over the course of my entire life. I think a lot of people do get stuck. And that to me, that's what makes me feel young mentally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%, Laura. I just think that, especially since like the friends that I have, like they are usually asking me like, oh, like I need a new music recommendation. Like, what is new? Because I feel like I'm still listening to things from like 2016. You
Yeah.
know, so that kind of makes me feel younger by default.
Mhm.
And yeah, just keeping up with that stuff. I think it's also like society and the internet also really conditions you to believe that like once you hit a certain age, you like all of a sudden lose all your interests. And it's like, well, I
Yeah.
still like the same things that I liked when I was 19 and 20. Like not all of it, but some of the stuff you still carry with you. You know, I still
Yeah.
like discovering new music. I still like, you know, checking in on the pop culture trends. I still keep up with, you know, like the award show nominations and I still like get excited about like, you know, TV shows coming back and stuff like that. And I just I think that sometimes like the internet is like, well, like that's for young people to keep up with. You should just go like do your taxes and have children. And it's like but I don't want to do that. So
I don't want to do either one of those.
Yeah.
I'm legally required to do one of those things.
right.
And by
it's
the
like-
way, the 18 to 34-year-old age range is still the key demo for advertisers, and we're just barely outside of that. So I think we're
Yeah.
still relevant in terms of
But you know
being
what I
needed
mean,
by
right?
Hollywood.
It's like
Yeah.
anytime you go in, like you're making some kind of pop culture comment, like there's some like young person that's like, "Ew, you're like 80 years old. Get off the internet." It's
Well,
like-
no, but what I mean by that is like these things that we still
Of course,
love
so we're in the
still want
target
us to
demo.
consume them.
yeah, exactly. No, I totally get
And
that.
then I also like to think that, you know, I asked Laura, do you still feel young mentally, physically? If we start to feel those signs of aging, we're still at the part of our lives where we can change those things for the
Yeah.
better if we want. It's not too late at all for us to make changes
No.
if we wish or need to. So that I think brings me a lot of hope too. It's not like, you know, we're suddenly feeling really tired and we're destined for 40 years of just being exhausted. Like I got that blood work. I'm taking some supplements. Who knows if they're going to work? We'll see. But I feel like I'm feeling
Yeah.
better so far already. Could just be a placebo effect. I don't know.
No, I feel you. I stopped taking supplements last year, and I feel like it really like I didn't realize like what a big difference some of them were really making.
Yeah.
And then I started again this year, and I already feel so much better.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Share your supplements. No, I'm
Well,
just kidding.
honestly, the big one is I think that I'm not anemic, but I feel like I have like low iron, and also because I
Okay.
stay inside, like I think I upped my vitamin D.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, and I just feel like both of those have really like upped my energy levels a lot. So
My grandma used to always accuse me of being anemic. She's like, you're pale. You must be anemic. I'm like, no, I'm not, Grandma.
God,
I'm
that's
fine.
probably in contrast, my grandpa's like, are you sure you're Mexican? Because you're really pale.
As though there aren't pale Mexican people.
I know. It's like,
Come
well,
on.
like, but also my grandma, like, literally, like, blonde and green-eyed, pale
Yeah.
skin.
My
It's like, you
gosh.
literally married a pale Mexican lady. What are you talking about?
So sounds like we're still feeling pretty young, despite the fact that we're like smack in the middle of the aging millennial demographic. Although I will say, Gen Z, you can't make fun of us for too long because the oldest Gen Zer is very close to turning 30. So time is coming for y'all too. It'll come for you just like it came for us.
By the way,
You're already starting to see it. Like, Gen Alpha's already infiltrating the internet.
I know. And they're scary.
They are scary. It's because millennials raised them.
by the way, my iron is in range. So take that, Grandma. I know you've been dead for 16 years, but I'm good.
You really showed her.
I'm going to drop this off at her grave. Look, Grandma, look.
It's like, stop trying to feed me steak. I'm fine.
Amazing.
To build on this discussion, I saw people talking online about things they didn't realize were optional in life until you saw someone else simply not doing said thing. And I thought we could look at some of the answers, and we also asked our pals on our Patreon what their answers are to this question. First one I pulled from threads here. For me, it was that you don't have to explain yourself for anything. If it is a no, it is simply a no, full stop.
That one's definitely been something I've leaned into more as I've gotten older. Historically, I think I've been somewhat of a chronic, like, over-explainer because I felt the need to justify why it was I did or didn't want to do something. And now it's like, I don't have to do that. And the people who matter will get it.
This next one, I think this has shifted over time. I'm not sure this was always the case. Answering the door when someone knocks or rings the doorbell if you're not expecting them. So I'm wondering if this expectation has evolved with the advent of doorbell cameras and then just being more insulated thanks to the internet. I feel like when we were growing up, you just answered the door. That's what you did. Everybody did.
And the phone.
And the phone.
Your parents used to teach you, like, this is how you answer the phone.
Because I think if I didn't have a doorbell camera today, I would still go to the door and at least look through the people and then probably answer it. I don't know. It's a little hard for me because there's solicitors have come through the neighborhood.
I don't answer the door during the day because it is solicitors. And like, unless it's like, I mean, if it's like obvious, here's the thing. Sometimes they get you too because they're like, oh, we're with the power company. But then it's like, well, where's your badge?
They
so
lie.
now I just wait and make sure that they're like, if I can see that they have some kind of like badge on or something like that. But yeah, if I'm not expecting anybody during the day, I'm not answering the door. Fuck that.
Yeah. I don't answer the door if I'm not expecting somebody. And I'll check my doorbell cam footage to see. And if it's somebody that I know, okay. But
right.
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah. But like, well, I mean, also there's something to be said for like letting people know when you're coming over. I think I still maintain, I think it's really rude and weird to just turn up at somebody's place and expect them to socialize with you because you don't know what they're doing. Like, you didn't verify with them that they were free.
So actually, that is something I didn't realize was optional because I just think that like we grew up seeing people drop in all the time.
Yeah,
I don't
just for a chat. And it's like, that's why Grandma stayed ready. Like, she had all this random crap in the cupboard. Always like 10 tins of cookies because you never knew when somebody wanted to come over for coffee. And like wouldn't tell you in advance.
That's really sweet, though, don't you think? A little surprise, like maybe it's one thing if they're
nice.
coming over during the workday, like, hey, I'm working over here. But maybe the weekend, Saturday morning, I think that could kind of be nice.
Ew.
Have you never? How about this? Surprising someone, knocking on the door. Surprise! I baked some cookies.
Totally.
And I would like you to have
after
some.
a certain hour, I do not want you at my doorstep at like 8 a.m.
8 a.m.
That's
Not
too
as
early
early.
as 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's too early. If you want to come over at like 10 or 11, it's like, okay.
But
That's
like
fine.
we all have cell phones now. So just shoot me a text and say, hey, is it okay if I drop by?
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
I just
I
don't
would
think
do
it's
that.
that's
Yeah,
too
I
much
just
to
didn't
ask.
realize, like, growing up that it was like like the people called in advance because it was always like, oh, we're in the neighborhood. Let's just go say hi to your tia. But sometimes they weren't even related to you. It was just like some friend your grandma had for 40 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well, 2
so that's
years ago,
completely
Pat
foreign
and
to
I
me.
baked a cake and surprised somebody at the door at like 6:30 a.m. with the cake before Pat had to get to work. And this person wasn't even awake yet. So they came down like half awake.
Aw.
But it's the birthday.
Yeah.
I mean, it just
That's
depends
sweet.
on your friendship with that person, right? Like,
Yeah.
maybe that's acceptable in that particular friendship. But I'll tell you what, if you ever showed up at my doorstep at 6:30 in the morning,
She's not answering the door.
I'm not answering.
I've known you for like 23 years and you're going to leave me in the cold?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. I've learned something tonight.
But see, it's not just you. I'm at 6:30 in the morning. I'm not awake. And I'm not waking
Right.
up.
Yeah, I think that like we should both know better than to be at Laura's door at 6:30 in the morning.
This next one, we've talked about this in the past, but I try to keep this in mind as often as possible. Finishing every book you start. If it hasn't grabbed you by page 50, move on to something else. This one I really didn't accept until just a couple years ago. I felt
Me
so
too.
guilty, and I still kind of do, but I think borrowing books through Libby in particular, just getting them so easily on my Kindle has empowered me to let go of a book.
For me, it's also because I log my reading throughout the year, and I always feel bad logging something as do not
Did not
well,
finish.
yeah, Storygraph has actually helped a lot because they do have an option to mark a book as like did not finish.
Okay.
But Goodreads does not. It's like if you don't finish it, it has to go back on your shelf or you just like delete it off your lists.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so I had a big complex about that for a while. But 50 pages, that feels like so much freedom. Usually I give something about 100, which
Yeah,
still
I think
sometimes
50 is
feels like
pretty
too long.
aggressive.
Yeah.
Next one, staying someplace I don't want to be. Like I can just leave. Being cordial to people who have hurt me. I don't have to do that.
Yes. Love
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. People should feel less guilty about leaving earlier than other people. I'm
Yeah.
good at not feeling guilty about that. And you don't need to make an excuse. Just say, it's time for me to go. The problem is people start going, oh, what do you mean? Blah, you so soon, blah, 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 blah. I gotta go, bye. I got a
I
dog
just-
to take care of. I gotta run errands,
Yeah.
whatever.
I was going to say, I kind of think about it like if you're at a party and you decide you're going to leave, it's probably going to take you like another hour to get out of there unless you're Irish goodbying anyway. So it's
Right.
like, it's fine.
Right.
Technically, you stayed an hour later than you wanted to.
Yeah. People gotta be better about that too. Just say bye and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like as we get older, it's easier to do this because everyone has the same excuse where they're like, I have to go take care of my dog.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know?
Or I have plans early the next morning. Sometimes that's my
The dog was the
situation.
built-in excuse, though. That's a good
Yes.
built-in
Yep.
excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Canella's always my excuse.
Yeah. Jasper used to be mine, and now I have nothing.
You could still
Jeez.
tell people
Yeah,
I have
gotta
to go take care of my dog.
I
Yeah.
could be like, oh, did you get a new dog? It's like,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Real pain in the ass.
Real needy, constantly needs care.
All right. Well, we're going to take one more break today, and then we'll see what our pals had to say about this question. We'll be right back. Okay, so Camille said, it's only in maybe the past year or so I've been able to try and be okay with the idea of people not liking me, particularly at work. I don't know if it's just my people pleasing or a woman in the workplace thing, but I do a lot of sorting out other people's shit, and it finally dawned on me that if someone in another department is annoyed, then I'm not bending over backwards to accommodate their lack of planning. That's okay. As long as I'm doing what I need to be doing and taking care of the shit in my orbit, somebody I don't work that closely with can be annoyed at me, and it actually doesn't matter.
Very true. Their emergency is not your priority.
Yeah. My therapist also said to me today, you don't have to carry somebody else's torch. I'm like,
I don't.
The tribe has spoken.
Yeah.
This is not my problem.
It's big news for the kids that used to be like the only ones that did the group work, you know,
Mhm.
in school.
Ugh, that was the worst.
Sarah says, keeping my house in pristine condition. My mom was obsessed with cleaning, and seeing people's houses online that are so neat and organized made me feel like mine has to be perfect all the time. It doesn't. We live here. We keep it clean, obviously. But we have clutter around. It's not hurting anyone. This one is like, it speaks to my heart because my mom is also this way. She wants like a neat and tidy house. And it's like, Mom, nobody's going to notice if there's a cup on the counter. Please just like leave the cup there.
No, but sometimes it's good for our mental health if we have a very organized home. That's my problem. Like, I need it as clean as possible.
Mama G doesn't believe in mental health, so that's not her fault. If she just said that to me, I'd be like, yeah, Mom, you know what, Mom? I get it. Like, that's fine. Like, you keep your quirks, but that's not the case.
Yeah. Helen said something similar to what Camille said, caring about what other people think, particularly when it comes to strangers or acquaintances. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one, but no one wants to see yours.
Kiana says, folding laundry before putting it away. Grew up in a military family, so everything was always neatly folded. When I finally gave myself permission to just shove my t-shirts and undies in the drawer, putting away laundry became a lot less of a hurdle.
Wow. Okay. So I don't fold my underwear or my gym clothes, but like t-shirts, I don't want wrinkles, or I want to reduce the number.
I just hang everything up. I love having a closet.
Yeah, I hang a lot of stuff up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say I got obsessed with the Marie Kondo folding method, and I do use that for my drawers because it keeps everything nice and neat.
Yeah.
And also you can see what the things are instead of stacking, so that the filing method is nice.
Yeah.
I also need like new hangers too because my stuff just keeps falling off of mine. So if anybody has any good hanger recommendations.
Oh, I have some recs I can send to you.
John says, another I just thought of, you don't need to start your own company or have a side hustle. Social media convinces us we need to be working constantly and working for ourselves. You can have the 9-to-5 corp girly job and be happy with that. That is a really good point. You know, some people like are okay with just checking in and checking out at a certain time.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this on the pod. It's probably been a few years, but there is this unhealthy culture online of doing more and more and more. Personally, I get inspired by stuff like that, but I know that's not going to be for everybody. And I've set boundaries, so that's an important factor too.
Sean says, on a sillier note, I watched an episode of Doug as a child where he was anxious about having to eat liver and onions at a party. For years after that, I was convinced I would have to eat liver and onions as an adult. I actually remember this episode.
Me too.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe I missed it.
I've never had to eat liver and onions.
I have.
So, what's your verdict?
I haven't either.
Yeah, it's not great. But, you know, my grandma was one of those people that was like, just like you would ask, like, what is that? She's like, just open your mouth and eat it. And so I ate a lot of stuff I didn't want to eat as a result of that. Laura Todd says, taking on another person's emergency or drama as your own just because it's a fire for you does not mean it's a fire for me.
Yep.
I love that. And some people, I think, so of course there's valid emergencies, but some people like to act like there's always an emergency going on, I think for the attention. I knew somebody like that and it was tiring. I once heard this line in a Bruce song, your life was one long emergency. I was like, oh, that's that person. They think their life is one long emergency. And
you know,
it's not.
I actually had to tell a good friend of mine to like stop messaging me like, I'm blind. I can't see when they were driving late at night. Like they did have eye problems, like just like that poor eyesight and more glasses and stuff like that. But I was like, if like I know that like you can see enough to get home or else you would not be driving. Like they would literally take away your license. But like I really need you to stop like being so dramatic about this if it's really not great. And if it's as bad as you say it is, please go to the doctor and like get your prescription checked because this is really stressing me out. Like if I wake up to like, first of all, like a message where you sent that and not even like, oh, I got home safe. Like I can't deal with it anymore. So... And they stopped.
All right, a couple more here. Kelsey said, giving people my time when I neither want nor need to. Life is too short to waste what time you have. Yeah, and that's one I think you definitely feel as you get older. More of a fuck it attitude.
For sure.
And then last comment comes from Austin who says, giving a crap about things that won't matter in 6 months and definitely things that won't matter in 1 year and beyond.
For sure.
I
And
love
that's
thinking
ended.
about things that
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
And that's why I've wanted, did I bring this up to you guys? That's why I've wanted to start journaling more so I
I
can
was
kind
just going to
of,
say that this is like the beauty of journaling, that you can
yeah.
see that.
Yeah, you can track your progress and look at how 3 months ago I cared about this. Now it's like who gives a
Yeah.
darn? I'm trying to curse less on the podcast.
It's going to be really funny too in like 5 or 10 years when a lot of that stuff that bothered you really becomes obsolete. Like I'll still go back and read over my journals from high school and middle school, and every time it was like my life is over. It's like it obviously was not over, but it felt like it at the time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks everybody who participated in that topic at patreon.com/millennial. We would love your support there. So if you're not a pal, please head to patreon.com/millennial and pledge. You can sign up for a free trial. You can also get a discount if you pledge for a year up front. We also love to hear from you. You can email millennialshow@gmail.com. You can use the contact form on millennialshow.com. You can also leave a comment on Spotify or YouTube or DM us on social. And if you enjoy the show, we would appreciate a review in your favorite podcast app. Time for some recommendations. And I played a game a week ago that my friend discovered at Target. It's called Slings, Slingz. And this is a card game in which you are given a prompt, and then you have 5 letters, I believe, in your hand. And let's say one of the letters is V, and the topic is cheese. You would slap your V down on the pile and say Velveeta. That's the cheese. And then once you get 3 words in that category, you flip another category over, and then you're trying to come up with another 3 words with the letters that you have. The more letters you still have in your hand by the end of the round are points against you. Person with the lowest amount of points at the end wins. I think that makes sense. Hopefully it does.
No, that
It's a
sounds
fun, fast-paced
Yeah.
game that keeps your brain going. And very easy to learn, too. So if you're looking for a card game that's easy for everybody to learn quickly, check out Slings, Slingz.
As recommended earlier in the episode, I want to recommend checking your voter registration to make sure it's still current. You can do this by heading to your state's Secretary of State website. They can refer you out from there, or you can just Google your state name voter portal, and it should come up right there at the top of the Google search results.
And then I wanted to recommend Hydra Hide gloves since, it's starting to be gardening season for me out here on the West Coast. So just looking for like some good garden gloves or even like work gloves. I really like these a lot. They're kind of like a hybrid of leather and then like mesh. And they have this really nice little like Velcro bit at the wrist so that they stay nice and tight. And they're really great for just keeping your hands clean, but also like anything that's like thorny definitely won't go through that leather. Like I was pruning this lemon bush that we have in the backyard that has like never produced fruit. I don't even know why we still have it there, but I'm trying to get it to grow this year. That's my goal. And lemon has a lot of thorns, in case you didn't know. And I did not poke myself for the first time. So that was really nice. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. After Dark starts in a moment for patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers. I'm Andrew.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Pamela.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.